Nikola Jokic last night, 56 points, 16 boards, 15 assists, 2 blocks, partridge in a pear tree. Had a little bit of everything in this. The first 55-15-15 game we've ever seen. The Nuggets get the overtime win on Christmas. Here to break down the Joker and everything that happened on NBA Christmas, Kelly Iko, NBA national reporter for Yahoo Sports, joins us. Let's start there. I want to make sure I ask you this the right way. Do we give Jokic the appreciation his level of play deserves?
The short answer is no. I think once you become accustomed to greatness, I think we expect it so much that when it happens, like we saw last night, we just become numb to it. And this is a guy, the Nuggets are down 3 starters. He's having to produce 2K-like numbers on a nightly basis, and still some people might not even bat an eye because, again, this is Nikola Jokic, and he's done this for eons. And it's crazy to think that the NBA has a player like this, at this efficiency, this age. Technically, you could still think that he could do this for another 5-6 years to go at this level and still might even not win 2 or 3 MVPs because of how numb we are as a society to it. I think there needs to be more appreciation for what he's doing on a nightly basis. He's literally carrying his team on his back. I think he's the MVP. I think that was decided a long time ago just because of what he's had to endure this season with Denver and the injuries and the changes and trying to keep up in the Western Conference. I think it's a no-brainer for me.
Is Jokic the best player in the NBA?
I think you can make that argument. I think it's a pretty safe argument to make, especially after games like this, because it's funny because Christmas Day is where a good chunk of the country tunes in for the first time, right? And they're flipping the channels with the kids in their onesie, opening to see who's playing who, and you see this Denver game against the Wolves, and you're looking at Jokic and saying, "Oh, this is the best player in the NBA. This is the draw. This is why I'm getting up to watch this game." And you can see clearly that even defensively, he's still keeping this team afloat. Offensively, he's doing everything. His efficiency is raised, assist percentage is raised, points per shot attempt is raised, and this is the actual definition of what an MVP is supposed to do, night in, night out. It's a no-brainer for me.
All right, let's take a look at one of the other outcomes here. Anthony Edwards hits the 3, sends the game into overtime, ejected with 20 seconds left to go in the game. What do you make of the ejection?
You can't do that on Christmas. Come on, man. If we're all about giving back and the spirit of Christmas cheer, and you can clearly see how dope this game is, so to speak, you can't throw Anthony out of the game. People have paid their money to come and see this guy play. It's a marquee matchup. You have Ant going against Jokic. The fans are getting into it. The crowd, like the teams are getting into it. You can clearly see why, the league put this on the slate of Christmas Day games. You can't just do that. It's wrong. It's flat out wrong. But there should be an apology. The league should put out a statement. They should do anything to say this is our bad. They have the 2-minute report. They should have a 48-minute report. This is our bad. This is our bad. We made it.
But when we see that tweet that just came up, Scott Foster ejects him. Like, I am so tired of hearing the name Scott Foster. Like, I should not know a ref's name as a household name. At what point does the league just look around and say, hey, we got to find somebody? Like, it doesn't really matter about the quality of work. At this point, it just matters about the perception every damn time I hear Scott Foster's name. Right.
And that's one of the things where the players versus the officials and the coaches, there's enough tension, and we see this every year around this time, kind of building up towards the All-Star break. But when players and coaches are practically campaigning against the referees and the officials, even if maybe 30% of their claims are legitimate, there's enough of a voice of distraction or a voice of reason where if you're the league office, you kind of have to look at and say, okay, is this an actual problem? Should we actually take time to deal with this? Especially, there's a commercial side to kicking Anthony Edwards out of a game like this on Christmas Day, where this is supposed to be one of your biggest draws, especially competing with the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Charles Barkley whining about having, NFL games on Christmas Day, a day that the NBA traditionally owns, and then the NBA puts out, maybe, purposely or intentionally diluting a product when you don't have Anthony Edwards out there on the court in overtime. But I do want to transition into what is becoming one of my favorite matchups to watch in the NBA, and that's Spurs Thunder. The Spurs take down the Thunder for the third time just in the month of December. Is Wemby officially OKC's kryptonite?
Yeah, he has to be. There's no doubt about it. The formula to beating Oklahoma City, a lot of teams can't do it because they don't have the size and the versatility that the Spurs have. But the sheer presence of Victor Wembanyama, you see it not always in the box score because you'll see teams take a bunch of threes. He's deterring shots from the restricted area. He's forcing teams to look for second and third opinions, on half court possessions. And him coming off the bench has really thrown a wrench into what opposing teams have to scheme, because now you can't just game plan to see Wemby for the first 5-6 minutes of the game. You have to accommodate for him coming off after the game, having sat down and seen what's going on and how to adjust and how to have his impact, even without touching the ball. And I think this Spurs team is so great because this month alone they've had 7 different leading scorers. This is a team that's built by the collective. They don't need any one player to dominate possessions. It's real ethical ball, as the kids will say. And I think from top to bottom, they're about as deep as any team in the NBA. And there's a reason why if you beat the Thunder 3 times in a month, you are a legitimate contender. So the Spurs are dangerous, and I think Victor is only getting better.
Are you concerned at all about OKC at this point?
I wouldn't say I'm concerned. I think a good part of the regular season is to, you know, eat some humble pie and figure out that, you know, a few weeks ago this team was 24-1, right? And they were the darlings of the NBA. They were already placed to be in June and repeat as champions. Now you're seeing the gap is closing a little bit. Detroit is good. San Antonio is good. The Rockets are good. New York is really good. There are teams that you're going to have to go through to get to the promised land. And I do think that if you're the Oklahoma City Thunder, now is the time where you want to get embarrassed on a national stage, because now you can go back to square one, clean things up. You're still, 26-5 or 27-5. They're still an elite team, but it's been found out by one team in particular that has your number that there should be some tweaks, some adjustments, and maybe it's the 2-3 zone that they use so much, or maybe it's the way that they compact the paint and result in a lot of kick out threes. There are things that even the great teams have to fix on the fly. And the good thing about these Christmas Day games is that you really want to win them. So when you don't, it forces you to put things in perspective and understand where you have to, fix your faults.
You mentioned the Thunder having some things to fix. I know another team in the West has some things to fix, and that's the Lakers. Despite Luka's
Yeah.
injury status kind of been lingering, he did give it a go last night, but Houston smoked him, absolutely smoked him. In your opinion, what's the biggest problem with the Lakers right now?
Athleticism and age. I think they're too old, too slow. It's hard when your two best players are Luka and LeBron, because you need a bunch of athletes around them. You saw the Rockets last night; they were running them in circles. Amen Thompson, Jabari Smith Jr., Tari Eason. These guys, even Kevin Durant at age 37, is still running rings around these guys. So if you're the Lakers, you need to make a trade now, sooner rather than later, and just get some athleticism. Just get some speed, some agility on the perimeter, on the wings. Defensively, you could shore up, that side of the ball. But the biggest thing is age. They're too old. They need to get quicker. It's so apparent that despite their elite skill level of Luka and LeBron, this is an athletes league. You need guys that can fill in those gaps, run down the channels, finish dobs, finish dunks, get on the break, easy buckets. This is a team that struggles to score in transition. So if you're the Lakers, you need to figure out how to acquire some athletes pretty quickly.
The Christmas Day slate of games started with me sitting on my couch looking up and saying, "Oh man, the Cavs are kicking the you know what out of the Knicks," and then coming back one cup of coffee later and saying, "Oh my God!" So what is it? Was this a Cavs meltdown or is this Knicks resilience? How do you sort of couch what we saw from this game?
It has to be a Cavs meltdown. When you're up, 15, 16, 17, on the road, you have to figure out how to close that game. Now, if you look at that game in a vacuum, Donovan Mitchell has to do way too much for this team on a nightly basis for them to have a chance at winning. Darius Garland needs to be. He had a 20-10 game, but on the whole, this is a team that just needs more out of that guard position. And they're 17-16. They're in a playing spot. It's time to, in my opinion, to break that up. You need to bring in something dynamic at the guard position. He's making the same amount of money as James Harden, John Morant, LaMelo Ball. If you're the Cavs and you were the best team in the East like 8 months ago, 7, 8 months ago, and in that short amount of time, you've fallen towards the bottom of the barrel in the East. In terms of playoff teams, that's unacceptable. And if you're Donovan Mitchell, you're talking to the front office like, I need some help. I need some more. We need to put more on the table if you want me to continue playing at this high level, or to make a playoff run, or to even get out of the play-in positions. You need to make a change, because that was not it.
We saw AD leave the game early yesterday against the Warriors with a groin injury. What's the latest that you're hearing on potential AD trade talks?
It's funny because Anthony Davis and Dallas as a whole, they're in this period of transition, if you want to call it that, where it's so obvious that this is Cooper Flag's team. This team should be built around him, for the foreseeable future. And the pairing, as great as it looked on paper with Anthony Davis, Kyrie Irving, Klay Thompson, in reality, it will just never going to work. Anthony Davis is came into camp out of shape, came into camp with a lengthy injury history, and as you've seen this season, it looks great when he's playing and healthy, but how often can you count on that? So, if there are teams, and there are teams around the league that are keeping tabs on what the Mavericks are going to do, if you're Dallas, I would just pull the trigger now and just send him on his way to a team that he can go play for a championship right now, and just really build around Cooper Flag's talent, because he is an immensely talented kid. His skill set is lengthy. He can finish at the rim. He's improving his 3-point shot. As a playmaker, his reads are getting better. They're getting quicker, smoother, crisper. And you just need to move in that direction. Like, you firing, Nico Harrison was the first step in getting this team back on track. Trading Anthony Davis is the next shoe to drop.
You guys can follow him on Twitter, X at Kelly Eco. That's IKO. Kelly, well, I don't know if it's going to be the weirdest trade deadline we've ever seen, the wildest trade deadline, but I know you'll be covering all of it, man. We appreciate all your help and all your insight. You got to come back and help us make sense of that when the chaos starts. So thanks for hanging out with us. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. Thanks for giving us some time this morning.